Hello friends, welcome to Awdhesh Academy. Friends, we have earlier learned about aptitude. We have learned that aptitude means talent or an special ability to do something in a better manner. Today we are going to learn about attitude. Attitude basically means how we look at the world, how our behavior changes with different people and different situations. The same word is looked differently by different people because of their difference in the attitude. So let us first define what is attitude. An attitude is a psychological tendency that is expressed by evaluation of a particular entity with some degree of favors or disfavors. So when we look at a particular entity or look at a particular person, object, event, ideas, then what is our attitude? So for example, if you talk about a particular political personality, let us say Mahatma Gandhi. Now some people will have positive attitude toward Mahatma Gandhi, some people will have negative attitude. You talk about any other thing, for example, communalism or communism, you will find people having different type of attitude. Some people will support capitalism, some people support socialism, some people will justify merit, some people will justify reservation, and you will find that the attitude of the people differ. When you talk about these issues to any person, almost every person is going to react in their own way. So attitude is an evaluation of an attitude object ranging from extreme negative to extreme positive. So for example, if you take the case of say reservation, some people will have extremely positive attitude toward it, some people will have extremely negative attitude toward it, and some people will have mix of the two, means they will be either siding with it or they will be opposing it. So that is basically the attitude. When we look the same object with a different connotation, with a different mindset, that is the meaning of attitude, and that decides our attitude. There are three components of attitude. One is the cognitive. Cognitive means a person's thoughts and beliefs about an object. What a person thinks about an object or what a person believes. So these are basically in the tune of thoughts. Emotional. Feeling about the object, person, issues or event. That means that particular entity, what type of feeling it creates in you. Whether it is a feeling of love, hatred, repulsiveness, admiration. So all these things, what type of feeling it creates, that is also the second component of attitude. And the third is the behavioral manner in which the attitude influences a person's behavior. That means how we behave. So you may be against casteism or in favor of casteism, you may be against reservation or in favor of reservation, but how you behave, how that particular attitude affects your life, that is decided by the behavioral component of the attitude. From other side, we can divide the attitude into two types, explicit and implicit. The explicit is that the person is aware of his attitude and that influences his behavior and belief. So sometimes we are aware of our attitude. We know that we are against something, we are in favor of something. So that will be known as explicit. The other is the implicit, when we are not even aware of our thoughts and beliefs, and still it influences our conduct and behavior. So there are many things, for example, whatever values we learn from the society since our childhood, let us say respecting the parents, obeying their parents, all those things, there are many things which are implicit, which is there in our mind, but we are not even aware that these things in our mind and we behave accordingly. So that is basically the implicit attitude. Carl Jung, one of the founders of psychoanalysis, he defines attitude as a readiness of the psyche to act or react in a certain way. So if particular situation comes to you, how you react to that, that basically decides your attitude. And attitude is generally found in pair, and one pair is conscious, other is unconscious. So on that basis, we can divide the attitude into two separate categories. For example, the conscious attitude will include extroversion, rational, individual, and abstract, while the unconscious will represent introversion, irrational, social, and creative process. So these are basically the two types of attitude Let us now deal that in detail. Let us now first learn about extraversion. You know about the extrovert people. Some people are extrovert, some people are introvert. So what type of people are called extroverts? So the nature of these type of people are as follows. Their energy is outward toward people and things. So they are generally, they are thinking about the outward things like wealth, power, and they talk about the people and the things. They need a lot of stimulation and often express emotion. So they are generally the emotional type of people, and they will need a lot of stimulation, and they are pleasure seeker, and so they will be stimulated. They get their motivation from other people. So they will generally be doing the things which other people like or appreciate. They like variety, action, and achievement. Their attitude is often relaxed and confident because they have their confidence because they are worldly successful, and therefore they are generally relaxed. They are understandable and accessible. People can understand them because they express themselves very freely, so people know what is there in their heart, and they are accessible to everybody. They tend to act first and think later. So they are driven by their impulse, their emotions. So they tend to act first and then they will think later on. And the introverts will generally see them as being shallow people and pushy people because their direction is outward. They are always doing things for the world, and therefore the introvert will look them as shallow people and pushy type of people. Now the second category of people are basically the introvert people, and this quality is called introversion. So let us understand the introvert people. Their energy is inward toward the concepts and ideas. So they think about the concepts, different concepts, why something happens, and the different type of ideas instead of talking about the people. They focus more on their inner world. So instead of focusing the outer world, they are focusing on the inner world. They face overload if they have to spend too much of time outside and focusing on other people. While the extrovert people love to interact with the other people outside world, the introvert people get tired because they don't feel very comfortable with outside people. They bottle up their emotions, which can explode if they are pushed too far because they are not good at expressing their emotion to outside world, and therefore they bottle up their emotions, which can sometimes break. Instead of trying to change the world, they try to understand the world. While the extrovert people are always trying to change the world, the introvert people will try to understand the world, and their attitude is reserved. They're generally not very talkative, they are reserved. They tend to think before they do anything. And extroverts generally see them as egocentric and passive because most of the time they will find that these introvert people are actually not doing it, and they will think that they are basically arrogant type of people because they don't value other people. Now the attitude can also be divided into rational and irrational attitude. Now the rationality is basically based on clear thoughts and reason. So rational people know why they are doing what they are doing, and they have very clear thinking, and they have very clear reason for doing what they are doing. The rational attitude subdivides into thinking and feeling. So when we are doing something, we either love it or we find it that it is a reasonable thing or it is a logical thing to do. So both type of things are basically the rational. The irrational attitude means not being rational. That means when you are not applying your reason and understanding for doing something, then you are basically an irrational person. An irrational attitude subdivides into sensing and intuition. So the people who are basically doing irrational acts are generally doing it because of their intuition, their gut feeling, their sense, but they don't know why that sense is coming. So basically they don't question it. Whatever comes into their mind, they do it. Now let us understand some of the examples of the irrational behavior. For example, the irrational people will take offense or become angry about a situation which has not yet occurred. So they will presume something that this may occur, and they will get upset or they will become angry. They will be expressing their emotions in a very exaggerated manner. For example, for something they will start crying profusely, which a rational person will try to control or will be able to control. They will maintain unrealistic expectation from the self or from the other people. They will engage in irresponsible conduct such as intoxication. So they know that intoxication is bad for their health, but still they will do it. So that is basically also an example of irrational behavior. And people with mental illness like schizophrenia may exhibit irrational paranoia. So sometimes it may be because of the medical reasons also. Now we come to the individual and the social attitude. We know that each individual is having his own attitude. So that individual's attitude is called individual attitude, and that basically is creation of their own uniqueness. We are all born very unique, and depending upon how we think, how we are, we have our own attitude. However, the society also influences us. There is an attitude of the society also. Society also values something positively and something negatively. For example, socialism, capitalism, liberalism, conservatism, these are valued differently in different society. So depending upon which society you are born, you are likely to be influenced by these values also. So we have our own individual attitude, but at the same time we are also influenced by the social attitude also, because that goes into our subconscious mind. Since our childhood, we are learning those social values. Finally, we can also divide the attitude into abstract and creative attitude. What is abstract? Abstract attitude means something which is based on the analysis, while the creative attitude is something which is based on the artistic creation. Now, when we analyze something, then you will find that everything is different. So, analysis is generally done by the philosopher or scientist. So, just like if you take a human body, a person who is analyzing it in a very philosophical manner will divide it into different parts, different body parts, then the different cells and all that. But a person who will try to look that as a creative process will find that the whole body is one. In the same way, we can see that in the world, people are different. There are different castes, religion, there are different societies, there are different nations, there are different animals, there are different living creatures. So that is one way of looking at it. You can divide everything into a different manner. But at the same time, we can synthesize it and see that everything is part of the same reality. And that is why you will find that the artists are able to connect almost with every living and non-living creatures. They can connect themselves with the stars and moons and suns and water and plants. So that is the attitude of the synthetic attitude, and that basically is the artistic or creative attitude. So if we look from the analytical point of view, then everything is different. But if we look from the creative process, then everything is combined and part of the whole. For example, Albert Einstein once said, all religion, arts and sciences are branches of the same tree. That is basically a creative attitude by a great scientist. So he says that generally we consider the art and the science and the religion as different things. But if you look at them, they are basically the branches of the same tree, means part of the same reality. He also said that science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. While the analytical person will see that there is nothing common between science and religion, they are two different things, but as an artist, as a creative process, you can see that they are basically connected with each other. And so beautifully it has been said by Albert Einstein that both are connected with each other. Science cannot exist without religion, and religion cannot exist without science, and both have to work together to achieve the happiness for the humanity and for the people. So friends, today we have learned about the classification of attitude, how we can classify into different types, and that is very important to understand the attitude in detail, which we shall be doing in the subsequent lessons. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, we have learned in the previous lesson what is the meaning of attitude and how we can classify the attitudes. Today we are going to learn about the functions of attitude. Why it is important to have an attitude, or why people develop a particular type of attitude. What benefits they get for having a particular type of attitude. So this is what we are going to learn today. So the function of attitude is something which actually satisfies the particular psychological need of a person. Now every person has a psychological need depending upon his intelligence, his social standing, his caste, his creed, his country, all these factors. So he has a psychological need, and that psychological need is satisfied by the attitude. While most of the people dismiss attitude, or particularly the negative type of attitude, as something which is very negative or bad, but the psychologists study as to why that attitude is developed and how that particular type of attitude help a person's well-being. So Daniel Katz has classified the functions of attitude into four categories: utilitarian, knowledge, ego defensive, and value expressive. So let us understand these four types of functions which are performed by the attitude. First is the utilitarian function. Utilitarian function means that the people adopt the attitude that are rewarding to them and help them avoid punishment. So we choose the attitude. Imagine that attitude is like a basket. There is a different type of attitudes which are available, and we choose the attitude which serve our interest best, which help us best. So that is what is utilitarian. What is most useful to me, that is what I am going to accept. For example, if you are working in a tax department, your attitude will be to collect as much of taxes as possible. If you are a taxpayer, you will try to pay as less taxes as possible. Both are in your attitude, because the performance of the tax officer is determined by how much tax he collects, and the business interest of the taxpayer is covered by how less taxes he paid, because the less he pays, the more he has for his own consumption. In the same way, the person who is rich, his attitude will be different, because he will favor all those things which will help him become richer, while the poor person will have a different type of attitude, because he will follow those attitudes or those principles which will help him becoming better. So our status in the society, our position, our profession decides our attitude, and we choose a particular type of attitude which suits us best. The second classification is about the knowledge. People need to maintain an organized and meaningful and stable view of the world. Now, we cannot have an attitude where we understand something and we don't understand something. We try to build different type of stories, different type of knowledge into one thread, so that there is a consistency between everything. For example, you can say, I am a good person. I believe that I am a good person. Why I am a good person? Because we believe that good things happen to good persons. I desire to have good things in my life, so I prefer to be a good person. But suppose I believe that bad things happen to good people and good people suffer, then I will perhaps not like to become a good person, because I would not like to suffer. So that will justify perhaps me doing something wrong. In the same way, you will find that some people have faith in God. Why? Because they also believe that nothing in this world moves without the direction of God. And that is why if I have faith in God, then everything will move according to me or according to my wishes, because through God, I'll be realizing my goals. So ultimately, you have to see that different parts of attitude are actually connected, and ultimately we want to create a synthetic view of the whole world. The third classification is called ego defensive. Ego defensive function involve psychoanalysis principles where people use defense mechanism to protect themselves from psychological harm. Now this mechanism includes four things: denial, repression, projection, rationalization. These things we are going to learn in detail in the subsequent portion of the lecture. We are more likely to use the ego defensive functions when we suffer from a frustration or a misfortune. When our moral are low, when our confidence level is low, in that situation we tend to go for ego defensive function. So first defense mechanism is denial. What happens that sometimes we just refuse to see the reality which is manifested, which is seen by everybody. And this is important because sometimes the reality is so harsh that we don't want to see that. We just close our eyes. We refuse and we go to the illusion. So many times when the life becomes very difficult, then we just want to forget about the bad word, the harsh word, and so that we can enjoy the happiness in our heart. Now, use of this mechanism is a symptom of mental maladjustment. For example, if you are supportive of a leader or a deity, then you don't want to see the negative side of the leader or particular religion or God, because it will create a problem in you. If you see a leader and you have full trust on him and you believe that the leader is going to help you in making your life better, And if you come to know about the negative side also, you don't want to see that reality because that will break your illusion. The second is repression. Repression means an individual who suffers from a traumatic experience completely forget about it. That means you just want to repress all the negative things which are there in your mind. So some people suffer a lot of trauma during their childhood, from their parents, from their bosses, and if they remember, they feel very agitated, very angry. At the same time, what has happened in your childhood, perhaps you can't recover that past. Sometimes you don't have the courage to fight your boss, or it may not be good for you. And therefore, what you do is that you just want to forget about those instances, because if you forget about those instances, that will make your life better. The third is a projection. Projection is another defense mechanism where people ascribe their own unacceptable qualities or feelings to other people. For example, if somebody is corrupt and he says that everybody else is corrupt, then what happens that because everybody else is corrupt, he will feel justified in doing the corruption. But if he says everybody else is honest, then naturally he will be single man out. So what he will do is that he will project as if everybody is corrupt. Similarly, you will find that a liar will be projecting that everybody is a liar. He will say, honesty does not survive in this world. If you are honest, you can't survive. So everybody is a liar, so I am also a liar. In the same way, somebody who is a selfish person will generally project that the whole world is selfish, and that will justify him doing his selfish act. The fourth is the rationalization. Now, rationalization is a form of self-deception. You try to adjust an unwelcome situation or outcome by falsely seeing this as for your benefit. You must have heard the story of grapes are sour. So if you don't get grapes, you say that these are sour. So it is good that you have not got it. So you tried for civil services, you did not get civil services, you can always project that civil services is bad service, I would have lost my family life, I would have suffered political interference, and that will make you happier. You can also believe that wealth creates evil because all the evils are found in the wealthy people. So if you are not rich, you are lucky. So that type of rationalization sometimes help the people leading a better life. The fourth type of the classification is value expressive. Now, value expressive is very, very important because what happens that sometimes we develop ourselves into a particular type of a value-based person. We attach certain values to ourselves. We attach some sort of concept to ourselves and we start believing in those concepts. So we establish our identity and thereafter we do whatever is possible to establish that identity so that we are known by that particular type of person. So for example, if you are an honest person and you want that everybody should consider you as an honest person, then what you will do is that you will not keep quiet when some dishonest act is taking place. You will rather keep on criticizing every dishonest person. So that will give an impression to the people that you are an honest person. In the same way, suppose you are a hard-working person. Then what you will do is that you will generally criticize all the lazy persons who are not working hard because that will give you a confidence that other people will consider you as a hard-working person. If you are an efficient government officer and you believe that you will be able to deliver goods, services without much hard work, you will perhaps criticize the hard-working people and therefore you will get the confidence that you are an efficient person. And in the same way, suppose you are a communist, then if you are having this communist mindset, in order to prove that you are a communist, you will keep on criticizing the capitalism whenever the opportunity arises, and thereby you will try to prove that you are a true communist. So these are some of the methods by which you can establish your own identity in the eyes of the world. So friends, today we have learned that our attitude actually serves a function to us. There is a function of having a different type of attitude. It helps us in keeping our mental balance, it fulfills our psychological needs, and since the needs are different for everybody, therefore these attitudes are also different for everybody. Thank you very much for watching the video.